Hey guys, this is Talon. I apologize for my raspy voice today. There's a lot of smoke in the air from the volcanoes, so my allergies are kind of acting up. But I wanted to show you guys what I've been working on with NEWB 3.0. And what I have so far is like a very basic diagram and wireframe mockup on this side, kind of like a research and mood board on this side, and then my prototype on this side. So I'm going to show you this real quick. And so the concept that I'm going for is the landing page where it's going to have a account abstracted login, and then it'll automatically connect to a Gorally testnet, or at least ask the player to confirm and switch to a testnet. Right now, Gorally is the testnet of choice. The other ones are depreciated. So, I'm not Gorally. Actually, I'm supposed to move to Sapoli, I think. One of the two. I gotta double check. But so from there, it's going to go to a player dashboard where you can create a character for the first time, or you can go immediately back to your main dashboard. I mocked this up like last night, so it's very raw right now. But the idea behind this is that when you go in, this would be a proof of concept type of idea of how an account abstracted Web3 page would look and feel as a Web2 multiplayer RPG. So that's kind of what I'm going for right now. So this is in my head, and there's a lot more different things in my head that I haven't gotten to just yet. And it's funny because I ended doing this. I didn't start doing this. I started with a prototype and worked my way backwards. And I really shouldn't have done it that way, but I'm a visual person, and I love to see the elements and its beauty before I dive into the nitty-gritty details, I guess. So go back and so I'm trying to show you the correct flow of how you should be doing it. I didn't do it this way. So one of the things that I wanted to do was create a chat room that people could go in, similar to Discord, and network and create their own servers, guilds, or whatever for their experience together. Discord has limitations that I wanted to see if I could address with my design. And so I explored, but I love their interface in general. So Discord was my go-to chat and networking versus like example versus like Slack, or I think there's other things like Guild XYZ or something. They were fun and cool and all, but I don't know. I felt a little bit more at home with Discord, so they included a lot of enhancements to it that I felt flowed very nicely lately. But they also added a whole bunch of like premium things that were kind of annoying and sort of like cash grabby and stuff. So instead, I might not go that route. I'm not sure yet. But so this would be like the chat feature that I'm working on. I did some research of different MMORPGs on their character on how their landing pages looked and stuff. But while I was there, I was checking out League of Legends character creator, their avatar creator, and this is pretty much how I envision the character creator that I wanted to make to be. So similar to that mock-up version that I wanted. If I zoom in here, it had like a sample image of what your character might look like, and it goes step by step on what you needed to do. It's very nice, cleanly laid out. It shows you which colors you can choose, and anything that doesn't match, it won't let you select it, which I thought was great. And then and of course the little finish button on the bottom, and then at the end of it, your character up customized. At the end, you can always do random or start over, or go back or forward as much times as you need to. And then you can download your image and use it as your PFP or something afterwards. And I thought that was awesome. What I wanted to add on my side to make it Web3 was the option to mint it afterwards. But this is the question that I'm not sure on yet, is whether or not I want to make it account abstracted where it will automatically mint and go into your account after you create your character. So kind of like a free NFT that gets airdropped into your wallet after you click either a download or save or something. And then we would mention here that we are providing this free NFT to you as a new person to be able to explore our metaverse and our metaverse and our world in a way. So this becomes their identity in the world that I'm trying to create. And then this is the downloaded version. So they're able to still download the image because once it's theirs, it's theirs. And they can download it and do whatever they want with it. The catch here is that to make it unique, I was thinking of making where if this image, this particular image, is already claimed and minted by somebody, they won't be able to mint it. So they would have to either buy it on secondary, or another option that I was exploring is they can mint it, and then there's just going to be another one out there, so it'll no longer be a one-on-one, but at least there's another option. Or it could be like that people, if they wanted this particular version to go get on secondary or something, they could buy. Or there's also an option where I could just make this soulbound or semi-soulbound, and it doesn't matter whether or not someone else has this exact same version of it. If they want this version, then they can just mint it. So they would just do a new mint of this version. So the NFT itself would be just a generic, I guess, dynamic NFT or a generative NFT that they customized from the very beginning and that they can further customize later as they play the game. So downloading or minting this version itself is not an issue because eventually I want to make it where they can update their image with cosmetics anyway and everything when they create their character and start playing the game and all that stuff. So the difference between this though and what I'm aiming for is I want a full body, and it doesn't necessarily have to be 3D, although that's kind of the going trend going forward. Right now, a 2D close-up PFP almost image is totally fine to download right now. So I'm just going to use this version as an example for what I want to create in the character creator part. Possibly, but I would want to do like a full body setup for characters to actually use in-game. Right now, League of Legends, this is just kind of like a fun thing they have on the side to get people to like mess around before they start playing. I think it's like super fun though. And it's something that is enticing for players like me who enjoy this just cozy creation type of simulation. So I do want to add this type of element in there. That's kind of all the research I have so far, but I have so many other ideas and things that I want to mess with as I'm building. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to show you guys what I've done so far with the build. And a lot of this was done in here in my prototype and everything. I wanted to kind of get an idea on what kind of aesthetic I wanted to get in. Before I show you this, the mood board and everything that I was working on, let's see. The first iterations of all this was like something like this, where it was like very mobile friendly, so long version, mobile friendly, very saturated colors, bright and neons, because that's how my characters were initially came out. My initial version of Noob 3.0 was very kind of all over the place. I was trying to go for like a steampunk, cyberpunk medley aesthetic and kind of ended up with something like this. I was trying to see if I could do something where it was very JRPG almost with gameplay and all that. I did want it to make it mobile friendly, and originally I wanted it to be very visual novel friendly. So I still want to have this kind of concepts during the play, during the game. Keeping this on the side for now. I don't know about the color scheme though, because it's kind of all over, and I don't know if people like this color scheme. It's not very traditional. It's not traditional for one, and for two, it's kind of all over the place, and for three, it's not the going trend, going getting out of 2023 and getting into 2024. So I started to mess around with a different version. The original mood board for this. Let's see. Here's my original mood board. Oh, it might be on my other account. Yeah, my original mood board was on my other account, I guess. I can probably pull that up actually. Just give me a sec. Okay, so this is my other mood board, or my other, under my Noob 3.0 account. I made another Figma, but I've been trying to figure out everything from the beginning. I really should have made it in here, but I was lazy. And I wanted to shift to Brave Browser instead, so I did it on my other one. But I can always redo everything on this side, that's not an issue. But going back to like 2 months ago, 3 months ago, 3 months ago it started as a bot in Discord where you would play the game inside the bot as a almost like a visual novel type of thing. And I still kind of want to make a version of this way. It's just it's a different concept that I might come back to afterwards or later on. I was looking into the ecosystem of Web3 in general. This is like basically a year's worth of learning about Web3 and how it works. Issues. We're here in the product stage with smart contracts, and then but then this is where the blockchain kind of goes down and creates all kinds of different stages and whatnot. I was researching and trying to do a this is kind of like my gameplay sample of the types of topics I would want to address as people play, because the root game is supposed to be educational, where you learn about Web3 as you play. But as we get more account abstracted, it's almost like there's no sense in me trying to do that anymore unless I am targeting those who are wanting to learn how the technology works. But for those that just wants to play the game, they don't necessarily need to know any of this. And instead, they could probably just go here and then go down. So all this is being abstracted away as we speak. And the idea of Web3 being an ownership economy would probably be the only thing that I need to focus on, is letting them know that when they're playing, they actually own the things that they have just created, and that now that they own it, they can do whatever they want with it. So, almost similar to like one of those business simulation games, except even though it's a simulation, it's actually real life, which kind of is mind blowing, right? Itself. But it would include all kinds of elements. And then I tried to research what is it that made Web3 like either special or made it scary for users for the first time. And so I come in from a psychological perspective of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And it starts from a survivalist and moves its way to self actualization. And a lot of people who are into Web3 are either kind of like at the bottom, or they kind of like span throughout, depending on where they are personally. I felt like they had different reasons of being in Web3. So, like, ownership is not necessarily as important, especially for those that just want to trade back and forth all the time, because what they really want to own is the money. And this is probably because of either survivalist mentality, which is like the bottom of the hierarchy needs, the very basic, bare bone basic. They're just doing something because it's a method of survival, whereas others out there are valuing community, whereas some of them out there is very value oriented, personal oriented, self fulfillment type of things. And no, you don't reach this unless you feel some sort of stability in your life. And so the question for the users as we're going in is like, who am I targeting, right? So for those that want to get into Web3 for like the financial aspects but are not sure, they'll probably be around here where they don't know whether or not they need Web3 or don't trust it. And then even like a question of whether or not they can afford it. So these are some of the barriers that I came across that people might be concerned about. I tried to come up with some fixes on things that I thought might fix it, or at least questions on the type of technology they might need in order to address their concern. So, for those who don't need Web3, the question of why do I need it? And so I created some ideas on use cases and how it's going to be created. Where, for example, if you don't need Web3, what do I gain from it? It's easy trading in digital goods and physical goods. So this is coming from a survivalist mentality. This use case definitely changes depending on where they are in the hierarchy. For those who are financially unstable, the use case that probably most reflects with them is the trading of digital and physical goods. The idea of ownership, data preservation, and verified ownership. The idea that they keep what they make and they can make money or sell, hold, whatever they want with it. It's starting to become their own value. And how this works is the technology that is coming out or is out already. And so, for example, by having this, you get this easy training of digital and physical goods by cutting out the middleman where everyone is an owner. And that's where decentralization comes along. The question, though, is once you start going into decentralization and changing into a DEX or a central exchange, there's the question of security and KYC onboarding that's currently in place. So in order for them to become financially stable in this market, they also need to give up some of their security and data. So that here is probably one of the biggest things currently that Web3 is tackling, is that in order for people to even start, they currently need to give up a piece of themselves to the public. And that's not going to fly with survivalist mentality. So there's things like private protocols coming out where you can do things and enter Web3 with their wallets or protocols without having to give up your personal information. And this is where different types of account abstraction is also coming in. So if we look at this in my sample for NEWB 3.0, you'll see that when they create their character, I'm going to let them be able to create their character using a social media or email login. And this means that I don't necessarily need more information than what they already gave the internet. I'll already be able to create a new wallet for them so they have access to Web3, be able to put in their NFT so they can use NFTs in their Web3 metaverse. So not only do I give them access, I also give them a tool, a utility that they can start with right away. And I won't have to ask them for either information or money up front. It's just, okay, here's a present for you for starting with us. I want to be able to create your wallet for you so you don't have to worry about the big hassle of creating a wallet and all that stuff, or going through central exchanges and adding money to your account and blah blah blah. That all stuff will come later. Only and only as much or as little information as you want to. Here, we preserve your data and you still verify your ownership by creating your account. So it's still on you whether or not you want to start this journey, but I'm not going to ask too much of you as you create your account. And it's something that they're already familiar with. So once they create their character, I'm thinking of it being their soulbound NFT so that it prevents bots and spam and all that stuff into the system, because there's no point in them creating a character at that point without already, because they cannot sell that NFT. It's theirs and it's their identity. It's attached to their email. So it's forever going to be attached to that email. If they wanted to use a different email, then they gotta use a different identity. And so, and everything attached to that identity is just on that identity. I don't know whether or not I'm going to keep it soulbound. We'll see. I'm pretty sure I am going to keep it soulbound. But the part that I'm not going to keep soulbound would be the items that you can attach to it, or the cosmetics or whatever. Unless I do like a burn mechanism or something, then that's, that's on them whether or not they want to do that. That's also if and only if they did opt into the NFT version rather than the Web 2 version avatar. But again, I'm not sure if I want to go that route of just making it Web 3 for them, where they didn't even realize that they're getting into Web 3, they're already in Web 3, or give them the option. Do you want to mint? This will get you into Web 3 space. That might be the better option, because then it gives them options. It gives them the freedom to choose how far down this new technology they want to start right away or not. And then they kind of have an idea on what it is they're getting into. Where it's like, I'll tell them, okay, if you don't want to mint, then you're essentially borrowing the character. And your information will not be preserved. But if you do mint, your information is always preserved into our blockchain database, and you will forever own this character. So it will never go away. So that gives us right away the concept of Web 2 versus Web 3. And that would be like their first lesson. So almost like indirectly teaching them without it feeling like a school, where they learn through interaction and a concrete example automatically of what that might look and feel like. Yeah, I like that idea. A lot of those things that it's like I have to talk about it out loud or think about it out loud in my brain in order for it to make sense. So, but I love that I made this chart, because it really helps me to get an idea on my user mentality, and then what types of tech or use cases are already available out there that I might be able to incorporate into my design. So this addresses low-hanging fruit, where I will be able to onboard more people, because this is the most common need that people go in. Value of community and self-esteem and stuff comes later and is essentially a perk. And a lot of people who are already degens and in Web3, they already know all of this stuff. So they skip this. They'll probably go right into Web3 and start messing with all of the nice Web3 features that the metaverse is going to give them. So the hardest part would be this part. And that's the part that I'm kind of looking at right now, is the look and feel and the concern of what it would take to get an end user to adopt or even understand a Web3 mentality on why something digital matters, especially when they're so used to a physical form, some sort of physical existence. And us degens, we're so used to NFTs and the digital space that we forget that this didn't exist before. So the idea that digital space, something you cannot touch, is now something that can be owned, is the most mind-boggling part of Web3. And I think that if we go this route of the option to connect to Web3 and they physically see, if I don't mint, if I don't continue with the Web3 route, I will lose my information. It is not mine. If I lose it, it's gone, or I can't use it at all for anything. Or if I do decide to mint, it'll be mine forever. It'll always be on the ledger, and that's it. So, and by being account abstracted via their email, it won't be lost to them because it's attached to their email. And I want to make it so that our backend could at least see the transaction made and maybe log their transaction, but not necessarily any like personal information or all that. So just enough to where if they end up losing it, we could possibly, like losing access to their email or the email was compromised, would be the other safety comfort question that they would come next. Like, okay, so then if I opt into this foreverness of owning my thing, how do I know that it's not going to get lost? Especially if it's going to be an email that I'm using. Emails get hacked all the time, and emails also have their own version of knowledge KYC, of privacy issue. And this goes into that dilemma of decentralization versus safety versus speed and convenience. So we might have the convenience, we might have the speed, we might have the decentralization because it's going to be connecting to each person individually, and we aren't going to control all of these different accounts on our side in terms of, being a central entity holding all this data. I didn't know I could do that. That's cool. But, and then, other decentralized methods such as DAO progression and voting and opting into coins and whatnot for stakeholder use, etc., etc., etc. But I'm getting ahead of myself there. But the question of how do we make sure our wallets do not get lost and that the information we are sharing will not get compromised. So this issue I haven't really addressed yet, and this is like another little rabbit hole section that I'm missing, is the issues here that I'm trying to address. Lots of work, hard to use, unavailable to me. This is easily fixed with account abstraction, because this takes away all the hard work and basically gives you a simple button to click and confirm, and things will back end make things for you and automatically process. Especially with AI getting as close as it is and as awesome as it is, it's going to be a lot easier to make this automatic and available to as many people. So this part has been kind of solved. Maybe I should write this down before I forget. So account abstraction and artificial intelligence. Don't mind me, I'm just filling in my little issues and what I call this, issues, and not corrections, solutions. Actually, I'm going to do this instead. Okay, so this is my solution for that. This is now a thing. It's going to change eventually and become even better as new protocols and methods come out on the developer side, and I'm excited to see more as this comes out. But this is a current solution for lots of work and unavailable. This one, how do I know wallets won't get lost? How do I know that the private data I'm sharing won't be compromised? If account abstraction answers this question, this means I'm going to be using account abstraction to answer this question. So how does account abstraction help me with this? If we think about account abstraction, it's going to use the user's information. So it is going to be taking some of the user's information that's already out there. So KYC already with only needing email or social. So it's not like it's something that's already been sent out to them. And hopefully later on, this will also improve, where we won't necessarily need an email or social login. I guess technically we could just have them, if we ended up making our own wallet, the actual solution would be a smart wallet. And with a smart wallet, they would just have their own wallet. It would be similar to Ledger, except they're not using Ledger, where it's kind of like a hot wallet hybrid. They can use it out in the digital world, but everything gets saved on their end, not ours. So the only thing we do is read accessibility for the most part when it comes to automatically making things happen for them. If they go into the marketplace later with a smart contract wallet, they would need to, hopefully we'll be able to make a user interface that is not that complicated. But the smart contract wallet, hopefully they will be able to go in and be like, this is the item I want to sell. This is how much I want to sell it for. And then this is how long I want to sell it for. So almost like creating their own private OpenSea account. Everything that will be in there for them, but it's not OpenSea, it's theirs. So the wallet itself, the profile, their account itself is theirs. It's not ours. They can do whatever they want with it. The only thing we're going to request from them is read access, review access, to double check things. And then when they press confirm on whatever it is they want to do, that would be their signature to do whatever transactions need to be done. So it's still in the control of the user. So the question then becomes, what about lost wallets? If everything is like on their computer, or if they only have access to the smart contract wallet on their end, how do we make it recoverable? And so in this case, this is a weird compromise of the third party being able to view their information, but not keep their information. So I wouldn't necessarily store. So that's the part that I'm not too sure about. I don't know if I would necessarily store their information because their information is stored here. So if anything, it would probably be in the form of like a zero knowledge proof. Actually, this would be up here, where we don't get all of the details of every single thing that they did and all that stuff. We only hang on to the essentials and track on the ledger the transactions that happen, so that possibly if we needed to recreate their smart contract wallet, maybe we'll be able to kind of, oh man. See, this is the hard part because they would still need to, in the lost wallet area, they would still need to be able to prove, for one, that it's them, and then for two, they would need to confirm transactions if they wanted to retrieve any NFTs. And if the character is a soulbound, they're not going to be able to get the character back by losing their wallet. It's just going to be gone. So they would have to create a new character. So that might be the catch, where the smart contract is created for them. They need to create this and save this on their end. We're only going to keep a zero knowledge proof of transaction happening on our side. And if they lose their wallet, then they'll have to just start everything over from scratch. Not necessarily in the gameplay and all that, but we would just create a brand new version, I suppose, of what their lost wallet had. And so this would only work if it's only with things in our ecosystem, things that our side would be able to replenish and replace. So it's not the same item, it's a different item. Their old item is essentially lost. So we would have to just give them a new one. And that's kind of the only way I can see it happening, where you keep their private information private. They keep ownership of their wallet, but they still have the ability to not lose progress. So this idea, I think right now, as I'm thinking about it, only works in this ecosystem. If they were, say, to have like a wallet that had like an ape on there or whatever, and they lost that wallet, we would not be able to help them at all. So, and I think that makes sense, you know? It's like, okay, we can only help you with the things that you lost, with items and stuff that you got with us. If you lost items that don't relate to us at all, that's not something we can help you with. You would have to like go elsewhere to go figure that out. Within the question of decentralization, you know? I mean, I suppose decentralization is good in that way, where the smart contract for this wallet is for this specific ecosystem and not any other ecosystem. So it's only compatible with this. So you would need to make another smart contract for another ecosystem, which holds your assets and everything in that ecosystem. That would make it decentralized, is to have multiple smart contract wallets. And if some person out there wanted to make it where you could have one smart contract wallet be able to transact and everything on the multiple ones, then at that point you would have to lose either privacy or ownership at some level for them to be able to manage it. But that kind of makes sense because in real life, you have people like brokers and stuff like that managing things for you. And so you give them your information so that they can do this for you. So maybe there's like an opt in we could do of account recovery. At least with opt in account recovery, we give that option of okay, if you want us to hang on to your information in your like be able to read your smart contract and be able to replenish and replace your old account in the event things get lost and stolen. Of course, when they do opt-in account recovery, they will need to provide private information and proof and all that stuff that they are the owners. And that's probably where those secret phrases and everything would come in. Because if they have their secret phrase, then it could be something that we could pull from our database. If I understand it correctly, if I understand the different stuff correctly. If my understanding of databases and how they work in the Web3 world is correct, then that's where account recovery would come in. But it's the opt-in account recovery. So instead of forcing them into account recovery, they're like, hey, you have the option on your security level. Do you want to have it more secure? Where if you do something on your side, we have an ability to pull it? Or do you want it to be where if you lose it, it's on you and we have no access to it because you didn't give us access? That's probably where the biggest solution is opt-in. Opt-in anything is probably like the best solution for anything. Anything can be made with opt-in solutions. It's like a hey, when you do this thing, you're opting into these consequences. And I think that as long as somebody has the option to say yes or no, then that's probably the best solution to anything. Right? So that's the idea for this part. Let's get away from this like crazy Web3 mentality things for a sec. Yeah, I have a whole bunch of research on the Web3 side to see if they could all be in cohesion with each other. But getting away from that, where is it? Here it is. So this is my mood board that I was creating for the game. As you can see here, the orange and dark theme is kind of where I ended up leaning towards. Maybe like not super dark, but like almost dark. Very similar to that steampunk looking interface. I'll zoom in a little bit. The original idea of the game was going to be very visual novel, choose your adventure story with very fun characters. Of course, it's going to be a cyberpunk theme because that's the type of elements that it's going to have in the game. And with cyberpunk, though, it's very saturated, very bright neon colors, which goes against the aesthetic of dark orange, dark and orange. This one is like on a brighter side. This one is a more subtle side. So this would be closer to that neon new age look. So instead of steampunk, which is less saturated, more dull, very grungy, very rusted. And you can kind of see the difference between the characters too. Like Newt was started off as cyberpunk themed. That's why his outfit and his color scheme is so bright. Whereas Ruby is very steampunk themed. And so she came out very unsaturated and desaturated and very neutral color and dulled. So I need to find a nice medley between the two because these are completely opposite concepts. I still want that cool punky feel, but that's why too cyberpunk has those fun elements to them. So it's not full sci-fi, it's cyberpunky. So that's probably what I'll end up doing. And they still have the whole like goggle thing and everything. So that's why Newt comes out with like his helmet and his goggles, and why I kind of use him as our main mascot. And then he still is techie because he has those elements of like his watch, for example. He used to have like a trail of wire things coming out and whatnot, kind of like similar to this look, but that was a little bit difficult to handle in the game. So I took it out just for simplicity's sake. The color schemes that I was going for was like an orange blue, as you saw earlier. So I loved this blue green highlight neon and the look of the orange with blue green and kind of grays. So initially this was sort of the aesthetic I was going for, grungy with the neon. And so, and as you can see for like things like Final Fantasy, they use this type of font where it's more regal, I suppose. So that's why the JRPG vibes was coming out initially with my color scheme and aesthetic. And then whether or not I wanted to go the pixel route. This was the kind of the color schemes I was looking at. As I was creating it though, I felt like it possibly was just a bit too busy. And I was gravitating towards the like older style. I can't remember what game this is, but this was fun to play. Oh, this is Final Fantasy. That's right. This is the Final Fantasy, one of their versions of their interface, whereas a darker theme, more dulled. But they still had pops of color here and there that made it still new age. And the quest accepted is nice and pretty. So very like League of Legend feel to it. And that was because of the MMO aspects that I was trying to go for. More icon imagery, design, samples that I was exploring. pixel version of the character in their inventory. This is for a platformer game though, and I don't necessarily want it to be a platform game. I want it to be an open world concept MMO. So, trying to see if I can mesh different elements. And like this would be an open world concept, and this is the full body character thing that I'm kind of going for. She has her armor and everything that she can do. I'll probably end up using something like this for the actual gameplay of character creation stuff. Talent trees is very common. Quest completion, reward items is something I want. Premium packs is probably how I'm going to monetize everything. I do like simple interfaces, so minimalist type flat icons, possibly, most likely, but still have like a cyber theme to it. That military type look is, and that flat icon over like a button type of thing is also fun to me. So this was like the accumulation of everything I enjoy and look at, and it's kind of diverse actually. My range is kind of horrible, so trying to figure out what my game would look like with this hodgepodge of mess has been a challenge, and I really just need to choose something. So that's my artistic side, just being a pain in the butt. But after that, I made sure to go with the branding process, which was my idea, my strategy for long-term mission purpose, audience personas, my mood board, and the visual identity. So this is why I started making the mood board, is because I realized that what I first created was not very cohesive. It was pretty, but not cohesive. It was confusing, and it didn't pertain to like a specific user base. So I needed to fix that up. My brainstorm was for like central ideas, storyline, lore canon, and the design, the type of game I want. Choose your adventure. These are all the different types of games I wanted. Character customization, relationship points, different endings. This is ultimately the kind of game that I want. It's an MMO, like an epic MMORPG. Choose your adventure open world concept game. Which is, I don't know, the closest thing I can think of is maybe Skyrim, with its versatility, but then with its visual novel elements. So very Final Fantasy. So like Final Fantasy meets Skyrim. I mean, Final Fantasy was still open concept, open world too, but you couldn't really choose your own adventure too much. It had a very straightforward storyline. The ones that had the best adventure, choose your adventure, would be those from like BioWare. So they're Dragon Age types, or their Mass Effect game, and their character customization with that comes with it. So it's like a medley between Skyrim, Mass Effect, and Final Fantasy. It's like the ultimate game that I want to make. And so, couple that with this type of aesthetic, couple that with a game concept of and storyline of Web3, or Web3 themes, Web3 themes, and characters that relate to different times or different situations in Web3, as well as incorporating Web3 elements into the game user experience itself, has been very challenging. And being that I'm not a developer, I'm just an artist, it's been kind of nuts. I tried to create different roadmaps for myself to see if I could, put it down on paper and get myself into a sort of rhythm because I'm just creating as I go. And so making a timeline helped me to kind of focus on one thing versus a different thing. So initially I was thinking use RenPy or RenPy for the visual novel aspect of it. And then later on upgrade to Unity and a whole browser and all that stuff. This is actually a roadmap of my iterations and my design iterations and the type of game that I wanted to make. So, my very first game would probably not be this ultimate thing that I'm wanting here. It would probably start off as something small, like the ones that I have created so far. So, this is my concept, my brainstorm, and my wish list type of thing. I tried to create a storyboard and started to kind of mock up the story and have an idea on what character progression might look like as you go through the story. So, this is where the choose your own adventure elements came in, and this was the Discord bot version of what I wanted to create. I went up to chapter 3, so I have up to 3 chapters so far, and each bold thing in here has like different things that you could choose, and depending on what you wanted to choose, my little sticky notes either say more things about what it is, like new concepts that are being brought up or foreshadowed, or items you might receive with different choices, what visually things around the room might look like. So in here, I'm saying, okay, they're currently located in a research department, which looks like a small school with classrooms and desks. And it has different rooms of cyber experiments, plant experiments, classroom, things that are around the character as the character walks around in the game. And then possible side quests to make it open world feel. I even had like an idea for like pet things later, but that's just so areas of interest would be like the different spaces you could go and check out while you're in this part of the story. Or if you were trying to follow along the story, that would be like the different things that would open up to you. So here is an example of what you might see if you make a choice. So if you follow the instructions, your character will wait for Newton Ruby to arrive. If you make a run for it, your character will run down the hallway to find an exit, which will make it stopped, which you'll end up being stopped by guards and forcefully placed into the interrogation room. Or you can choose to go left and the door is locked, where you choose again. So it gives you kind of like flexibility. It still kind of forces you into the same location, so it'll progress the same way afterwards. But depending on your choices too, it would unlock different things for future, or it would give points to different characters, etc., etc. So that's the kind of choose adventure story that I'm going for. And this was my brainstorm method of what I wanted to make and how I wanted to make it. There was a lot of things that I wanted to do with NEWB 3.0 that I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do first or what was important to me. I wanted to make an RPG game. I wanted to educate community. I wanted to make a podcast. I wanted to make a comic. And I'm like, holy crap, that's a lot of stuff for just a single person to make. Who is it for? I tried to figure out my audience and who might this benefit and who might be interested. Why do I want to make it? I wanted to see if possibly to see my priorities, why should I make an RPG game? It's like for fun, to help onboard, teach, and make money. Education is fun, help, teach, perhaps, possibly make money. Podcast is for fun, help, teach, and possibly make money. Then comics is for fun, teach, and possibly make money. Basically, it's for fun to help teach and possibly make money for all of these different three. What do I know how to do though? Like, I don't know how to do anything to make an RPG game. I don't know any. The community is like I'm still learning, so I'm not super confident in it. But I could. I haven't actually finished this board yet. But the podcast is the same thing as education. So the thing that I figured out that I'm best at is drawing and writing. So comic would probably be the very first version that I should be working on instead of everything else that I want to do, at least to get a proof of concept and a story and the foundation of where the direction is that I want it to go, etc., etc. So I figured out that I have the tools I need. I have the talent. I have the knowledge enough to create this comic and possibly the time to create this comic. So there's nothing stopping me from finishing a comic from start to finish. All I need to do is figure out my story, draft, final, publish, and then share it and add my artwork with it. So this was helping me focus because the rest of the stuff I needed to like improve on at some point, or it cost me something that was not readily available to me. So if I wanted to see at least one thing completed, it would be like this mini comic thing that I could go on, or an ongoing series of a longer thing. But as a comic, it probably would not be choose your own adventure, or I could make a choose your own adventure, but it'd be visual novel version. So going back to my first concept, of the visual battle systems. Yeah, I know, I wanted to add battle systems in there too. I'll get to that eventually. But okay, so I don't need that. Getting into where is it? Where did it go? See, this is what happens when you only have like the free version of Figma. Everything is everywhere. I really should invest in premium, but I have no money and I'm doing this by myself. So if you want to support this project, you feel free to. I'll have a link to my Patreon. That'll help with at least getting me some Figma premium so that I can organize my stuff a lot better. That would be amazing. Yeah, so this is like my beginning concepts of the visual novel that I was working on, where it's text adventure based. So this is probably how the game will look. It'll be text adventure based, but it will be interactive. So you could probably choose different things around your text adventure. Will still have choices as you run around and go. That's why I was looking at RenPy and learning how to use RenPy. If I have characters already created, such as this, I don't necessarily need to animate their faces until later, um, especially with new AI things coming out. I might not need to actually draw them out either. I'm able to just like highlight this part and then just ask the AI to make it smile or whatever. Depending on speed, though, sometimes AI takes forever to get me something that I want, and it's a lot faster for me to just color over it and then draw it myself. So that's the issue I've been running into as an artist using AI. Is that AI is cool and all for like maybe fancy things like figuring out a new outfit for her, but if it's something small, like trying to just make this guy smile, it's probably faster if I just cover over it with my own drawing. So it really depends on use case. Back to files. Huh. So let's see. Let's look at this roadmap. So my roadmap. This was my first roadmap on what I wanted to create. This roadmap was for understanding how Web 1, 2, and 3 worked. And initially, this was my roadmap on how I wanted to educate the community. And this is how my Discord was set up. So, Web 1 would be all information based, it would have all my announcements, my story. My Web 2 section had interactions, the bot, a gather town that people could play games and quizzes in. And in there, they would be able to learn more stuff. Web 3 would be ownership, so tutorials or actively participating in different things. Like if I went and finished all this of creating a marketplace, etc., etc., but it probably would be easier if I had like my own landing page and my own website to be able to manage all of this first. So I could make tutorials for days, but after a while, I figured out that having it interactive, but having people go to different websites and then have to come back every single time was horrible. Anyone who's in UX UI design knows that you want to keep your users in the same space as much as possible. You don't want them to leave your element at all, if at all possible. So stuff like redirects and whatnot is actually kind of like a no go. Once you redirect them somewhere, you're gonna lose them. So unless they're going into like just a little area of your overall ecosystem, it's going to be easy for them to like lose you, and it'll be difficult for you to get them back. So although this concept initially helped me to understand Web 1, 2, and 3 and the different types of activities that I'd be able to do with them and visually show the differences between the three, it was not going to work later. And I saw this firsthand in our NEWB 3.0 RPG Discord. The first iteration of it was basically this channels. They unlock progressively, but because it was kind of like unlock, people didn't realize they had to keep going at some point, or they managed to figure out that they had to keep going and then kept being sent all over the creation, which made it difficult for them because I would send them on quests, tell them, hey, go to this website, do a thing, come back, and then show me proof you did it. But that's super inconvenient, that's super tedious. They did run the rewards for participating in it. They found it was fun and cute and cool and stuff. So for those who enjoyed that type of thing, then awesome. But at the same time, this was not a very good scalable way to do anything. I needed to find a much better way to do what it was I was trying to do. So I guess you could say that this was my version 1. And my version 1 tanked. Well, it didn't tank. Some people very much enjoyed it. It's still available for people if they want. I kind of made it a little bit more user friendly to where it's easier to navigate now, but then it kind of lost its gaming elements that I initially created. So, back to square one. um, So yeah, kind of like back to square one. So started researching again, thinking about flow again, and this part is probably the part you are most interested in looking at, is my landing page. And here I want to say that this is the most complete version of my overall dream project I want to make. But right now, the audience it's particularly hitting is, even though it's made for noobs, this is assuming that the user already kind of understands and accepts Web3. They already understand that there's different irritating things out there, and they've been trying to learn or experience Web3, and it's been kind of tedious and a hassle and irritating. So here I've been targeting the person that found the interaction of Web3 as, it's like, why bother anymore? It's super confusing. Why should I even try or keep going? Or I'm confused at this point. So this was supposed to be a solution for them, the easier onboarding. But this is assuming that they were already trying before they came here. This is not necessarily targeting the one who's fresh coming in. The way I'm writing it, the play for free, play to learn, like token getting done right. And like I'm reading all this now, and it's like this might appeal to someone who understands what token gating is, but for a new person who doesn't even know what token gating is, like this is like highlighted for nothing. Play for free, cool, that makes sense. And then it's like, oh, I get to keep my character. It's like, why didn't I have my character for free before? Like usually when I make a character, it's my character, right? And then so I'd have to like explain this to them, and this is already like a question mark for them. Play to learn. It's like just a little cute way to say, you're gonna learn by playing a game, but to say that they're playing a game that simulates real Web3 experiences, it sounds cool from a DGen perspective. But if you're like a noob coming in from Web 2, it's like, why the heck would I need or want to simulate Web3 experiences? Like, why should I learn these things? So, stuff like that, play to earn, NFTs, tokens, all that stuff, and then play with friends with the chat room and feature and whatnot, which I was messing around with over here. That looks similar to Discord. So this landing page is fun and all, but it is not the target. It's not the market that I'm trying to hit. I mean, I can start with the degens. That's totally fine, and that's perfectly fine for where I'm at right now and the technology it's at right now. This would not be my landing page, though. If anything, this would be my About Us section, where I would put Web3 on your terms or something. For those who are comfortable with Web3 already, or at least, yeah, this makes more sense when you're comfortable with Web3. This has nothing to do with new people who just want to play a game. And that's one of the critiques that I got in my first versions of NEWB 3.0. I was like, okay, what are you? Are you doing a game? Are you doing education? Or what are you? And so this is kind of where I'm stuck, because I want to do both, but the target is something different because their expectations are different, and then what they want to do is different. So if the Web 2 user comes in, they're going to want to play a game. If I tell them it's just a game that's based on Web 3 stuff, that's all they need to know, up front. So this part would be the end user. This part is for our degens. So I don't need this here in our landing page. This needs to be tucked away somewhere in like an about us or something. So I do need to still kind of work on this a little bit more. And that's kind of what this was supposed to be for. Excuse my horrible handwriting and whatnot, but this is supposed to be the end user's version of their experience as they come in and learning as they go, but having a Web 2 feel and element to it that they're used to. But then the question of, at one point, do I want to drop the bomb or the hammer and be like, hey, this was an NFT the whole time? I could totally just not tell them that this was an NFT and be like, hey, this is an NFT. So if you want, you can totally just mint this sucker. And then maybe if I don't make it soulbound, I could tell them, if you want, you can just sell it. But then that's the question, right? It's like, okay, how far down this whole Web3 concept, like at what point do I want to let them know? It's a very matrix situation here. At what point do I want to introduce Web3 to them and be like, you've been in Web3 this entire time? It's like from the day you signed up, you've entered Web3. But at what point do I tell them? And I think that's the fun part that I'm messing with right now. I could not tell them. I could not tell them that when they're logging in, I could hide MetaMask wallet and all that, just make them log in with just an email. I could make it to where it's a smart wallet and they just go on and have fun with their character creator that they possibly never mint. Or they go ahead and save and it just automatically mints for them and becomes their own free NFT to use in the metaverse. And they just do stuff. And then possibly as they play the game, the player ends up getting like a fourth wall break and be like, sorry, but by the way, you're also not real, and your character is something that you own, but you can totally sell. I don't know. I have no idea. That's kind of like the fun area that I'm working on right now with Noob 3.0. And I haven't seen someone do something like this. They've either gone with logging in and totally abstracting away the Web3 elements, or they've come in and blatantly made it obvious that it's Web3 based, which may or may not deter a new user going in from wanting to do anything. Just the idea of connecting anything, like connecting your main wallet to this random game that may or may not drain my funds. Like, I don't even want to push this button if that's the case, But there's a sense of security when it comes to a login with just your email, because with MetaMask in your wallet, there's so much surrounding it of your security and the possibility of it getting drained nowadays in Web3 space that when you're logging in with just an email, unless they have your email information, they shouldn't have access to anything else. In theory, or at least that's what the end user is thinking. Email is more secure than something like this because they hear this all the time. But at the same time, email is actually probably worse in terms of security because this email is connected to everything that they're connected to. So the best way is probably to just I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to brainstorm this a little bit more because, in theory, I could just go in and be like, hey, you just need to log in regular with your @email. I cannot write with my right hand. This is very difficult. I was writing all of this on my tablet earlier. I'm on my computer now, so excuse my handwriting. But just your email login, and that's it. If we just did login, and then if instead of this login, we just did email, and then they just are automatically abstracted away from all of this, where we automatically create their new wallet address, connect it to testnet, and then add it to their off-chain user account, then all they really know is that their email is the login for this account, and they now have a character that they've created. So it's very Web 2 simulated, or Web 2 similar to Web 2. And I don't know if I want to blow their mind and say that this is actually a Web 3 thing. It would be much better to tell them up front that this is a Web 3 thing. But I wouldn't necessarily tell them at what point it becomes a Web 3 thing. Especially if the things that they're doing is so intuitive and so comfortable. So that's kind of the idea. I would tell them up front, this is a Web 3 application, and you're going to be introduced to Web 3 concepts as you play. But maybe I won't be so explicit in the login process, or however, or even in the dashboard process or whatever, until they start playing the game, or they get a little tutorial thing about the dashboard and whatnot. So this has been my current brainstorm session. This is kind of where I'm at now. I started this project maybe about almost a year ago, and this is what I've gotten so far. So yeah, that was kind of a lot. If you enjoyed this brainstorm on the backside of designing a game, and my iteration process, and where I've gone and how I've done since the beginning, I hope you enjoyed this. I very much want to continue my update with you on the back end side on what I'm working on. It'll probably look messy like this. It won't be something pretty, and it probably won't be super interactive aside from a Figma mockup where you get to go into my shared thing here, mess around with some buttons, see things highlight, some very basic, simple interaction things. Like this doesn't do anything yet. When you log into here, it'll take you to this, but that's like the extent of what I have so far. So, but even then, I don't necessarily want it to do that. I want it to log in and maybe get into a character dashboard, or go straight into character creation like you just saw. So, yeah. So it's a work in progress. I am happy with the direction it's going, though. I think this, at the core, what I have, the color scheme, the characters, my new fonts that I'm using for the logo. I do want to redo my logo so it's a little bit less messy and some little nicks here and there. But otherwise, I am very happy with the font cohesion with my logo now. I think it looks great. And my consistency with my fonts overall, this is basically interfont. The whole thing is interfont, and then the logo is using Ranchi, um, and that's the only two fonts that I'm using for this whole thing. The rest is, and it's basically the same color scheme of orange, white, and then like shades of black or gray. So I'm liking this direction. It still has that new age, um, almost almost neon, not quite neon, more subtle. Um, my characters look like they're. I need to fix their color scheme a little bit more, but at least when I redrew them, these characters were made with AI initially. I wasn't sure what I wanted to make, so I asked AI. I used a software called scenario.com, and I created these characters using scenario. And then after I was happy with their concept and their design, of course, I did things like I drew my character like a very rough draft of this one, put it into the system, and then let it create an AI version with a little bit more features or changed it up or however to create this character because I'm horrible at fashion, but AI seems to be very good at like different types of fashion things. So that's what I've been using it for lately. So when I finally came to a character design that I really enjoyed, I redrew my character into my style for consistency. And I did the same thing with Newt. He was my first AI creation where all I did was a bunch of generators in different styles. And actually, Newt is the product child of the nerd emoji. And with the whole glasses and buck teeth and everything. And I put in the nerd emoji as my sample. And I said, make me a character that has cyberpunk elements to it using this reference. So Newt is my newbie in a a personified form of Noob 3.0, which is why I made him into my mascot. So that's the backstory behind Newt. um, and then all my characters will grow from there, and you'll see my characters as I progress. But I know this was a lot. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure where I was going with this episode or this video, but I guess what I can say is the state of Noob 3.0 as of the end of 2023 is probably what this video is going to be about and what it's going to be called. And if you enjoyed this, or you have questions, or if you have feedback, I very much am desperately in need of feedback because I want to make this work, but I don't know how exactly to make it work. And so I'm just doing as much as I can, researching and trying different things and putting things together and putting things that I enjoy into it or what I think is going to work into it. But if you have or you see anything that would stop you as a player or anything from participating, or if there's anything that I mentioned and I'm completely off base with what I'm creating and your reason for wanting to play or anything, please let me know. I would love to improve and keep improving. And if there's a direction that I'm going that does not make any sense or is just it's not going to work, and you know from experience because you've done these things before, I would love to know. So any feedback is very much appreciated. I do want this to work. I don't exactly know how I want it to work because this is a new frontier, a new territory that I'm touching on. I've made games before where they're very simple, no code things like pixel RPGs and whatnot. So I know how to write story. I know how to make characters. I know how to I know how to create a sense of feeling with characters and my design and art, and I can make things look pretty. But the whole design of Web3 meeting Web2, becoming a merge, and almost blurring the lines between the two without it becoming invasive, um, or becoming too abstracted away, is that happy medley that I'm kind of searching for. I also don't want to do too much, but at the same time, I want to do a lot. So if you see something where I should probably start with something and go on and do something else, I don't necessarily want to follow the same roadmap as everyone else in Web3. A lot of them start with like a token and then move forward, or an NFT and then move forward. I want to create the interface and the user's experience first before I start making things into Web3. So I want to base this off of Web2 elements because that's what we're used to. I'm going to create this in a Web2 way, but then incorporate Web3 into it so that, or like indirectly, or not even something that the user realizes, so that they'll feel comfortable by the time they're finished with it. And then the question of, is this even worth it? Is this fun? Is this something that you would enjoy playing? A visual novel text adventure based on cyberpunk and Web3 themes, where you play as a character, interact with these different NPCs, and basically try to save the world as an agent in this open world of exploration. Like, how does that work, right? You have an open world, but it's a visual novel. That doesn't make any sense. So, eventually, I want it to be open world, or incorporate it in a way so that there's like a open world that you can explore, and as you go into these different places, cutscenes will appear and create that JRPG effect of, oh, you very like Pokemon. You run around as a pixel and you kind of engage in encounters as you go, type of thing. So, and I haven't come across too many Web3 projects that does stuff like that. For some reason, I see only like either platformers, or I see 3D versions of games. I want to stick with a 2D theme for now because that's what I'm used to and that's what I can do. And there's just some sort of like nostalgia about it. Like, I feel like this is a niche that I could probably run with, that not everybody is doing right now. For some reason, everyone wants to do 3D, but I don't know 3D, and I don't really want to do 3D. If anything, I want to do very nice, clean artwork like this, and then pixel open concept world, so, or open world that people can explore, and then we have cute little either isometric rooms that you guys can play around in or something. Almost like a cozy RPG, except it'll be a lot. It's maybe not cozy. It's gonna have a lot more stuff to it than that because I want to put in battlers and whatnot and puzzles. Um, but yeah, so yeah. I am also looking for help. If you are interested in this project and want to support me either with some talent that you have, I'm basically an artist with a dream. And so any help would be very much appreciated. If you're like a front end person and you know how to whip this up all on your own and make a fun website, that would be awesome. Because right now I'm just using Figma and learning as I go and trying to see if I can maybe deploy this on either Framer or like Vercel or something. I don't know. Or if you're very into Web3 as a backend developer, and you understand the different Web3 elements needed for the game that I'm trying to create, I'm also learning as I go, and just I'm making some assumptions as I go on how things would work. But if you can already see my issue, if you already know what things would work and what not, what wouldn't work, or what technology is coming up that I should just kind of hate like wait on or however, because it's coming but it's not yet released. That's not one of the hardest parts, is that I'm using technology that is not complete yet. We're still building it. So NEWB3.0 has been dynamic because it's been growing with the technology. My original vision for this was before I realized that my original vision was had to change, because not everybody wants to learn about Web3 as a developer or go that far into the rabbit hole. So, my niche is for the new people coming in. Um, and that's mostly because of my experience level. That's how I liked to Eli 5 or explain like I'm 5 thing concepts as much as I can. And I find that it's both good for me to know, to make sure that I understand what I'm talking about and to help people understand what all of this going on is. So yeah, so this is Noob 3.0. um, I'm also very new at UX UI design. This has all just been an accumulated research on different UX UI concepts and methods and all that stuff. Very informal tutorial hell type of thing. Like, I already know that this is not a good layout for a page. I need to like fix things up, make this smaller, maybe bump this up, um, take this out, put this somewhere else, stuff like that. I don't know. The landing page is kind of off. And then, the idea to make it mobile friendly. I don't even know if it can do that right now. Yeah, no, it's like it doesn't interact. So stuff like that. And if you want to just help with monetization, of supporting me financially, I am going to link, like I said, my Patreon, and you can help support me with via Patreon, or I can put in my public address for my wallet, and if you want to send me some crypto, that's cool. I'll accept either one. But either one, to be able to afford Figma, their pro version, at least for now, so that I can really get these concepts out of my brain and at least out into a visual version of what I want to do, so that I can get like a working demo out for the world, because all these things are in my brain and I cannot for the life of me figure out a way to get this out of my brain and into the world in a way that's understandable. So this is the closest I have gotten so far. And so if you see anything you would like me to change, or needs more development, or questions that I have not yet considered, or a direction I have not yet considered, please let me know. I would love to hear from you. All right, so this is a Noob 3.0. This is my project. This is Talent Dragon 000. Find me on socials. And I'll see you guys in the next state of Noob 3.0 update. Thanks.